I was talking to Dean's brother and some friend of his that went up to Hamilton, and they met me. I was trying to give them, I was drilling them as hard as I can, trying to tell you exactly what not to do. Not what to do, but what not to do. That was the big thing. It's not so much what you do, it's what you don't do.
Yeah.
Was what's really important. And I kept drilling it into him. I said, will you stop playing with these people? I said, you know, they're never going to recognize anything that you're doing. You could be the best in legalese and the best code decipher and the best precedent. You could be the best pretend pro se attorney on planet Earth, and they will never give you the time of day. You're not a member of their club. They don't care. You're not a full carrying bar member. They don't care.
No, that's there's no truer words. They simply they don't care. It's all about jurisdiction, and you have no standing in those court cases. There's no point even speaking when you're in there.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the very beginning part of the show. I said when I read your transcript, I was going bananas. I was saying when the judge said to you, well, every time I call your name, Mr. Clifford, you respond. So obviously we have control over you of jurisdiction because obviously you are responding. So obviously we, you know, put input in, we get input out. So I kept saying, it's like all Dean had to say at that point was, yes, I am Dean Clifford, but which one, the legal person or the man? Which one does this court wish to intercourse with?
And that's actually for the first month, I think, through about 15 different hearings. It's exactly every time they said something like that to me. A lot of these transcripts we can't get. A lot of them have been altered. I said, I am a Dean Clifford. I am not the Dean Clifford you're looking for.
Right, but what is funny is you are Dean Clifford the person and you're Dean Clifford the man. They created Dean Clifford the person, but you can't accept such a lovely, you know, benefit at this time, you know, because I don't know how to intercourse in the legal world, as a legal person. But if you want to talk to Dean Clifford the man, any man on planet Earth wants to intercourse with man on man at Dean Clifford, I'm the man. I'm here for you.
Yep. It finally got to that by the time my last hearing came around that I was in at, the last two hearings in front of the Superior Court judge, he finally started addressing me as, well, Mr. Clifford, man to man, blah, 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 and he'd keep talking, and because I was refusing to participate in it until he clarified who it was he was actually trying to speak to, and that's right after that was the day I got bail approved, no problem.
See, this is what I learned because I'm probably like 10 years. I'm not sure how old you are. I'm 51 years old, so I'm not sure how old you are. But this is what I learned from the free men of Montana. What happened was the federal court judge, these men, Schweitzer, and there was another man, Bivens or Givens, I don't remember his name. But when they went on trial, they were good ranching people. They were millionaires. They weren't, you know, they weren't,
this is
you know.
Leroy Schweitzer, right? Montana free men.
Yeah, Schweitzer, right? And there was another man who was very, very serious, you know, very Bible, very Old Testament. He knew every single thing about American flags and eagles and why they face to the left and not the right and why they hold arrows, and he knew everything. So it was so funny when they opened up the United States District Court, they saying you don't have jurisdiction over us and that eagles this and this is that, and the judge was like looking all around and he's like the bench that you're behind is a temple, you're part of the Illuminati, the Jesuits and the priest, and he's like the cloak and the robe, and he's like, and the priest is like, huh, and the judge is like, huh, wow, really. So this was what I learned was great with that trial. The district court judge, criminal judge, stood up, took off his robe, kicked the American flag to the ground, pulled the chair right in front of the free men, spun it around and said, okay, talk to me, man to man, what's going on out here? And they froze. They knew all of that legal nonsense. They knew everything about a flag. They knew everything about the Bible. They knew everything about the structure of Old English common law. They forgot how to talk man to man.
Yep.
So what was funny is the judge he said, you got nothing to say? You got nothing to say? Fine. Keep it that way. You say one more damn thing about the Bible or anything, I'll have you gagged. So he got up, got on his robe. They started on with their spiel again, and they were just gagged for the rest of the trial. But they gave him a chance to speak man to man. But see, the poor Freeman Montana guys didn't know that the judge was saying, okay, you want to evoke the common law? Let's do this. Talk to me man to man. What's going on? And let's see if we can work this out.
Yep, you know, he just entered common law when they take their robe off. It's far from the first time I've heard of that happening and seen that happen now. So.
Yeah, like I said, if they talk to you man to man, you got something going.
Yep. Now you're in the proper jurisdiction, but you don't expect it when it happens, though. Sometimes I've noticed. Prepared for a fight at the other end, and all of a sudden you're in the proper one. You're like, oh man.
Well, that's what I said. If all you evoked at the very first time, you didn't have to say this to common law. Said, look, yes, it is true. It is I, Dean Clifford, but the legal person that you, the Crown, created for my benefit and for the other benefit of other citizens and of other persons of Canada, yes, lovely. or the man, Dean Clifford. Now, I will accept, the title and responsibility of a man causing any harm to his fellow man, and I'm here to compensate for anything wrong. Is any man going to appear in this court in any near proceedings in which I get compensated for doing something wrong? I'll pay. I got the checkbook. I'm ready to go. How can we settle this?
Yep.
Tender me a proposal.
Yep. No.
So if you started with something like that, it would be over.
Stuff in the courtroom. There's the one hearing where I had my mic. They had me on camera, and the judge ordered the clerk to shut my microphone off so they couldn't hear me anymore, and then proceeded as long as she could hear. You can see on the transcript the clerk says, the judge says, well, as long as he can hear us, I don't care. I hear him. There was that one, and then there was 5 other hearings where I was actually grabbed by sheriffs and dragged out of the courtroom before I finished my sentence.
Well, look what happened with some man up there in Saskatchewan. He calls me up there in one of my shows, and he says to me, court was kind of good and kind of bad today. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, that little thing that you wrote for me? He's like, yeah. He said, well, I gave a copy to the Crown when I walked in, and I gave a copy to the judge. I said, yeah, what happened? He said, well, the Crown says, we don't understand anything on this paper. He says, all these words, they mean nothing to us. So then the judge says, but I understand every single word. See, so I said to the man, do you not understand what's going on? He says, no. I said, the judge understands you revoking the common law. The Crown can't answer or respond because those words, certain words like man, wrong, don't exist in their world. So they can't understand it. They can't move under those words. They can't answer it because if they did, they'd be disrobing themselves, they'd be uncloaking themselves, unmasking themselves, depersonalizing themselves, and they would have to be talking to you man to man, which they will never do because they'll bear full liability. I said, so it worked out wonderful.
Liability themselves personally.
He didn't realize how wonderful it was that the prosecutor said, I cannot answer anything. These words are not known to me. I said, that's perfect. I said, dude, you won. He's like, what? Because there's nobody on the other side. You present a proposal or you present an offer to them or, like, I wish to do this and, just tell me that, and nobody's ever going to answer. And it's just like what happened with Jason up in Canada. He's a great guy to get in touch with. If you know who Jason is out there in Kelowna. He had Winston Trout seminar. If you ever watched the Winston Trout seminar in Kelowna, Jason is the one who got them all together. Well, when Winston went out there, they did the Winston process, and 571 of those folks got caught up with it. And Jason called me up not too long ago. He said, well, the Crown had to stay the 571 proceedings against us because of that simple question you asked them. And he said, it worked out great. He says, it's been stayed indefinitely until they answered. They said to the court, the Crown said, we cannot proceed at this time. We're going to have to stay the procedure indefinitely until we can provide an answer. They're never going to be able to answer it.
They can't.
Like, whose property are we talking about? Is this my money? Whose property are we talking about? Just a simple question. Because the government can't make a claim for property. Only man can make a claim for property. So their hands are tied. Because, like I say, the only reason what man got together since caveman time, 2 man, 3 man, 5 man, 6 man got together, not men. Men and man are not the same. Why man gets together is to secure and protect the property of each other's. So this is the golden rule. This is like the mission statement of every government. I don't care where you are. People get together to secure and protect their property for their fellow man from foreign invaders. So when you go to the government, you just say, hey, I've got a claim. My property's been stolen. It's been robbed. Have you found it? Do you know where it is? Can you tell me where it is? Can you locate it for me? Can you track it down? Can you return it immediately? And they will, because that's their mission statement. That's their whole agenda.
It's supposed to be their job, yeah.
And they do it because, like I said, go to YouTube and go James Daly, Return of Birds or Birds of Prey. And he said this actually happened in Quebec. I told the man who had he brought a whole bunch of birds in, imported illegally, no vaccination, no paperwork, no nothing. And this was actually in Quebec. So I was wondering if it would work in Napoleonic as well. So go listen to Mr. Daly. He has got the biggest private zoo up there in Canada called Lion African Safari over there in north of Hamilton. And he's like, Carl, I went to court with this man, and he accepted all the fines, all the penalties, all the fees, which you make a payment of $1 a day for the next 10 billion years. It doesn't matter what the fines, penalties the Crown assesses upon you. So what? Accept it and pay $1 because at the century, who cares? They just want to see that the books balance. It doesn't matter to them if they actually physically get payments in full at one time, make payments. And then he said to the court in French, Oh, he says, yeah, by the way, I'm going to require the court to return my property immediately. And then the judge said to the Crown prosecutor, return this man's property. And then the prosecutor said, what? That's crazy. And the judge said, return the property forthwith. And then the man said that then the prosecutor said, okay. And he left the courtroom, and he said when the man left the courtroom, he said he heard the prosecutor and the judges screaming at each other because the judge was like, hey, the guy said open sesame. That's the magic word. He said property. What do you want me to do? My hands are bound. Like Jesse and Jonathan, they got their 4 kids back because I told Jonathan, Jonathan wouldn't listen to me. You know, he had this great big 2-hour spiel he put before the court, but Jesse did. I only worked with her for 10 days. I said, do you know the lady who took your kid? Did you actually physically see somebody touch and trespass on your property? Yeah, good. When you walk into the court, point her out into the court and say, that woman robbed me of my property. And the judge I know is a mandated reporter. He has to report any time he hears a crime of murder or rape or anything in his courtroom during testimony. He's got to report it to either the local prosecutor or the sheriff's department. I've got a couple of friends who are judges. They're mandated reporters. So what's funny is the judge said, well, don't you care why she robbed you of your property? Because they had guns and drugs in their house and, the kids weren't being, fed and, in a proper manner according to the government. So she said, why? And I said, look, just tell the judge, if I was raped, why do I care why I was raped? I was wronged. Return my property immediately. And then the judge said, okay, just said the court will be in recess. And I was like, at 5 o'clock, they were told to leave. Come back at 8:30 tomorrow morning. They said they came into the lobby at 8:30 in the morning at Queen's Bench in New Brunswick. Crown prosecutor walked out with that little, 2-sentence ditty claim I gave. And he said, who wrote this? And she said she did, because they got to write it in French on one side and English on the other. I said, who wrote this? And she said, well, obviously it's a woman's handwriting. Do you know what this means? And she said, it means you got to give me back my property. She said, well, he's like, yeah, it means that. But whoever wrote this, Tom was scared shitless. And when do you want your property? She said immediately, she said, well, we scattered into the 4 corners of New Brunswick. We never intended on you people ever seeing these kids again. Can you give us till Friday before you start assessing $1 a second payments for holding the property in naked possession? She said, yeah, we'll hold off on the claim for, naked possession. So they got back their kids. And it only took me 10 days, and plenty of parents called up my show and said, Jesus, Carl, we did. Some lady in the Saskatchewan or Manitoba told another lady in either Saskatchewan or Manitoba, just go to the social services up there and just say you want your property back. The lady went up there. She went to the receptionist. The receptionist said, have a seat, you crazy lady. 2 hours later, they dropped it, gave it to the kid, and the kid, they left. No paper, no nothing.
Amazing what a claim can do, eh?
Property is the magic word.
Yep.
Because property is that which is proper to a man, exclusive to all others within a society in which he may only use and enjoy for his own use. If anybody else wishes to enjoy it or use it, they must get his permission, or if they don't, it would be considered a trespass.
Yep.
It's that simple. And there's only 2 wrongs. I got that from Billy Thornton, trespass and trespass on a case. So once I put my case before the court, and the court clerks started to do the Jesse's case, because Jesse's case was like a 2 little sentence claim, they started saying, this isn't the Arsenal Court. This is Queen's Bench. I said, we wrote it Arsenal Court at Queen's Bench in Brunswick. And the court clerk said, no, this is Queen's Bench. It's like, no, it's Jesse's court. It's the Arsenal Court. She's making a claim in this public building. She's bringing her court to this public building. And you will recognize it, because you're the clerks. You maintain it. Here comes the king. Here comes the queen. Here comes the creator of this court. Man. So, they flipped when they saw what we were putting into the court. So simple.
We are the authority.
Well, like I said, at the very beginning of my show, my kid was taken because he had Downs. I haven't seen my kids in 7 years. So I finally seen them on St. Patrick's Day for the first time. I said to my mom, what's it been, like 5 years? I've been, away. She said, it's 7. And I don't even know what they look like. I said, can you point them out? They're in church. I said, there's 12 kids here. Can you point them out? She said, the tall one and the long-haired one. I said, holy cow, they grew. So like I said, I dedicated myself big time to this just to try to get my kids back from the government. And then once I, I got my kids back, I said, let me see if I could help others. It's all property. Thank God for John Locke. I could refer back where I've gotten all my stuff from. And like I said, if you go to my website, it's broadmind.org. I got very lucky that some nice man who looks like George Foreman, big guy from Texas, Larry, he sent me a letter from Ohio, a court in Ohio, and it said that, he said these women are fantastic at writing legal documents, and the judge simply wrote to them, thank you for your petition to the court or motion before the court, but we cannot grant it at this time, even though you have many numerous and legal conclusions, which may be like true or accurate. We see nowhere within the state of Ohio where it's recorded that you're an attorney, so at this time we're going to have to deny you. So no matter how good you are at their game, they're going to always say, you could study that nonsense for years. I could have probably been one of the best attorneys in the United States. I studied that stuff like you got no freaking idea. You should see my original lawsuits, like 300 freaking pages. It was insane. And I tell people where to find it on Pace. I said, you want to see insanity? Go look at my first lawsuits back in 2001. Go take a look. And then 2003, they
play that game. They can do whatever they want.
Right. So no matter how dedicated you are, it's a joke. And like I said, one of the best phone calls I ever got, I said to these folks earlier, was over in England. Some man called me up and he says, Carl, he said, the judge very clearly said that if you want to play the common law game, I highly recommend that you keep it to one-syllable words. And that's coming out of the judge's mouth. And this is what I say every time on my show. If you could do it in 3 syllables, do it in 2. If you do it in 2, do it in 1. Never use Latin because they could respond to you in kind. Every single thing that they could talk to you now in court, if you use a Latin word like ab initio, how would you like it if every single other word that came out of their mouth was in Latin? You want to be a smart guy? Oh, we'll be smart. You want to play? Let's play. We'll cross words.
Everything they're saying.
Oh, they'll destroy you. Talk like a man, because no other man will appear. Call them out, man to man. They have to appear as a man. You can invoke the common law. You have the right as man that created that court. Man is the creator of these courts. Public servants can create these courts. Man.
If you're a man, they'd be something of equal weight, something equal value.
Yeah. They have to. Well, you don't. You have a duty and obligation to your fellow man. You're not sovereign. Only God's sovereign. Only God has the capacity to ignore the law. God is impervious to law. God could walk through walls. I can't. I can't levitate. I can't grab. I am bound by law. Natural law, nature's law. I'm bound by law. I'm not sovereign, but I am a man. I'm in the image of God. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm the creator of Frankenstein. I'm the creator of these courts. I'm the creator of the public servants. I'm the creator of the governments. Man is the creator of all this. God created man, and man created everything else.
The word sovereign, I think it's just generally understood. They mean sovereign under God, which means still answer to Him.
Well, like I said, I actually, because I was hearing a lot of people using the word sovereign, and sovereign was something that basically says that possesses godlike qualities or is not bound by law. And God's not bound by law. I am. So to me, I'm not sovereign by law.
You're sovereign of whatever you create. Sovereign under God.
Yeah, right. You would have the capacity to rule over it, to have godlike qualities. But for me to call myself sovereign when I actually know there is another sovereign would kind of be a mockery. Are you sovereign over what you create? Yes. Are you sovereign? No. But you know what I'm saying? So I try not to use that word. Yes, I'm sovereign over what I create. I just say, look, I'm very happy to accept the title of that of a man. Is there any other man who's going to come forth and make a claim I've done anything wrong?
What higher title could there be other than God?
And this is what I always said to people. I had a great guy who used to do my show with me and from Chicago. His mom was an English teacher and his dad was a professor in ITT. So what was funny is I said to him, can you please explain to these people when you use an adjective how you diminish the capacity of a noun? When you say first the word I, that's just in the image of God. The lowercase I, that's the image of God. One, God. Man comes after that. You could stop right there. Or like I do, I put a lot in the 4 corner brackets. I could put my name in there. So people know how to refer that man to as Karl Lentz. But it's a 4 corner bracket. It means it's there, but it's not there on paper. It's just for your convenience and my convenience. So we could communicate with each other instead of calling each other, hey man, you call me Karl Lentz. But once you start putting down plaintiff, defendant, U.S. Marine, ex-felon, dad, son, you're diminishing the capacity of that of being a man. Why didn't you just hold the status and the title of man? Why did you reduce yourself to son or uncle or where you're showing there's duties and obligations to other family members? It's none of their damn business. The only thing they need to know is that you're a man. That's all they need to know. And you only have a duty. You only have a duty and obligation to your fellow man.
Or you confine it to something.
Or you what?
The more you try to define something, the more you confine it to something. You diminish it more.
That's right.
And try to describe it more.
Right. A man is unlimited in his capacity. So Once you start putting that I am a member of a family, well, then I have duties and obligations to brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. So like I said, I'm diminishing my status. So right now I'm just saying I, a man. And I'll put the 4 corner brackets, Karl Lentz. That's it.
Well, it's just like
and that's
people that are saying I am.
Yeah, I am.
And
but like I said,
after that,
I like
it. If you start listing all the things you are, then you confine it to what you list, and you remove everything you haven't specifically listed. Where if you leave it just I am.
Well, the only thing about the other way I look at it, saying I am, is like basically it's almost like a godlike quality, because I, to me, is God. It's the symbol of one, the symbol of God. We all come from the one. So if you just say I am, it's basically, to me, saying you almost like think you believe you have a godlike quality, that you are I. And to me, God is I. That's just my personal opinion. I'm saying I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to say this is the way I've looked at it.